evening and welcome to Credit Talk Live. I'm your host for tonight, Todd Stern, and this is a live call-in show. We are here to answer all your questions about credit repair, credit reports, how to buy certain things with credit. And tonight we are actually going to talk about buying cars. I know you always hear me talking about mortgages and everything, but tonight we're actually going to be talking about cars. And we're trying to do our Facebook Live here, but of course we're having some technical difficulties. Let's try this one more time because we always get a lot of people chirping in on that one, seeing what's going on. You know, that darn Facebook, gosh darn it, I'll tell you. Let's get out of here. Anybody there can help me? Please give me a call right now. 312-738-1060 and tell me why my Facebook Live is not working. So we're going to ditch this thing here in a second, but okay, I'm going to let's try turning the Wi-Fi off. Sometimes that Wi-Fi messes up things. But anyways, there we go, now we're live. See, I turned the Wi-Fi off and look at that. Yoo-hoo! Anyways, I want to hear about your experiences buying cars. New cars, used cars, everything that you've done with financing, paid cash, your parents lent you the money. I'm here to answer your questions and tell you the best possible ways. So let's go to our screen. How to buy a car. Where do I start? Excellent question. Are we buying a new car, a used car? And a lot of times when you're financing a vehicle, it's a lot easier to get financing on a new vehicle and get those better rates than financing a used car. Why is that? Because usually the new car, there's more equity in it, it's newer, it's worth more money. Versus a used car that might have 30, 40, 50,000 miles on it, usually the rates are going to be a little bit higher on a used car. And when you see those teasers, 0% financing for 60 months, love those, but they always say Tier 1 financing. What is Tier 1 financing? Usually credit scores over 740 and above. So that's why we always talked about credit before and why you want to have super, super high scores. Very, very important. So, which one do you do first? Test drive or do you get a loan? Well, personally, you want to find the car that you want. You know, a lot of these guys, they'll bring you right in to see what you're qualified for, which is not bad. But before you even have the dealership run your credit and put an inquiry on there, I would make sure that you actually like the car and this is the one that you want. So yeah, you know, do a test drive, do some homework ahead of time so you know exactly what you're getting involved in and what type of car that you're looking at. And then talk to your finance person at the dealership. Now, a lot of times your bank can get you the loan as well, but I would explore the dealerships because, as I mentioned, a lot of times the factories have great incentives if you finance the car through them. So that's really, really important. And in a second here, somebody just typed in here, what about leasing a car? Well, we'll touch base on that in a second as well versus buying. But again, when you talk to that finance person at the car dealership, you want to be an educated consumer. First off, before you even go in, don't be stupid and not know what your credit score is. There's so many services now that give you free credit scores. All these credit cards have it on there. There's a lot of free ones. Now the scores might be a little bit higher than what the dealership pulls or a mortgage broker pulls, but you got to remember it's going to reflect, if it's a high score, if you see it's on Credit Karma or something, 750, 760, maybe minus 20 points. And that's what it's going to be. So at least it's a good thing. If you pull your Credit Karma and it says it's 500, well, you know you got problems. So if you do have problems with it, you got to start working on your credit. And that was a whole other subject that we've talked about. And so I don't want to really discuss that at the moment. And as we just mentioned, do I buy a new car or a used car? Excellent question. As I said, usually better financing on new vehicles than used. So it's definitely you want to look into it. What about leasing? Somebody just typed in here, should I lease a car? Leasing is excellent because what you're going to do is, if you're the kind of person that likes to get a new car every couple of years, every 3 years or so, leasing is the way to go. Now, you can't lease a car, and if you're going to drive 25,000 miles a year or more, that's not going to work. Leases are usually 10,000, 12,500, and 15,000 miles. If you're going to go over that, that's not for you. So let's take a little break on that. Let's go to our first call. Hey, Dennis. Dennis checking in on Facebook. Hi, caller. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Excellent.
Okay, so I actually wanted to get advice from you, see how I can get a car. So right now, I actually spoke to one of my friends. She's trying to, I'm trying to buy a car from her.
Okay.
But it's used, obviously, and it has about 30,000 miles on it already.
All right.
And so I only want to spend about $2,000.
Put down $2,000 on it, you mean?
I'm sorry?
You only want to spend $2,000 on the car, or put down payment of $2,000? I just
want to spend $2,000. I'm sorry. And she's trying to sell it for $28,000.
Wait, and I'm sorry, I'm missing you. You want to put a down payment of $2,000, or you want to only spend $2,000 on a car?
Down payment.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm sorry,
I can't really hear you.
Right. Your phone's breaking a little. So, well, what I would do again is, you got to also look at it and go to your bank and talk to them. That car might be a little too expensive and out of your price range, and then, really, what kind of monthly payment is the question do you want? Do you want a, $200 payment, or do you want can you afford an $800 payment? So, obviously, the more money that you put down, the easier the payment will be, the less it'll be. One of my car dealers is actually typing it on Facebook. Dennis says, it's easier to purchase a car from a dealer than a friend. Absolutely. We were just talking about it. Thank you, Dennis. The car dealers always have special financing, and it's, a lot of times they'll have incentives if you finance with them as well. As we mentioned, if you got good credit, 0 down or a little down. But if you can, the more you're going to put down, the lower your payment is going to be. So that's important. But as I said, it's as crazy as it sounds. You might see a car on the lot, a 2017, but they have the 2018s out there. Especially on leasing, you want to lease the 2018. You're going to actually have a better price on it, because 3 years down the line, the car is 3 years old. If it's a 2017, it's going to be 4 years old. So always go for the newest car if you're leasing or purchasing, unless they're giving really some sweet deal on a discounted 17. But so with your friend, have you been to the bank yet?
Hello?
Yes, have you been to the bank yet?
Yeah.
So here, Dennis just typed in, every $1,000 financed is $20 a month. So $10,000 finance is going to be $200. $20,000 would be $400, and obviously 30 would be $600. So if the guy, you said your friend wants about $30,000 for the car, somewhere in that area, you said?
Yeah, around there, yeah. Okay,
so now you're talking $28,000. So you're going to be close to, $580, $575 a month. And if they can do it and the bank will finance it, then you're okay. But definitely go talk to a new car dealer as well, because also the warranty. You're going to get a brand new warranty with the new car.
Okay, I have another question.
Sure.
Actually. Since you mentioned about maybe going to the dealer, I did hear about them running your credit. I don't know. Do you know how many times would they do that?
Well, that's why as we've discussed before, you want to tell them, please only run this one time. A lot of times the dealer will run it once, and then they'll send it to whoever it might be, Honda Financial or whatever bank it is, and they'll run it. But we've also seen where they will shotgun it out and send it to 6 to 8 different finance companies, basically looking for it. Dennis, he says, only run credit when you want to buy the car. Exactly. That's why I say, and Dennis will agree with me, Dennis has been a guest on the show before, and we would love to have him back and talk about this information, because he is very knowledgeable on it. So, again, don't have them pull the credit until you really negotiate and you know the car. A lot of these car dealers will try to get you in and want to pull the credit. So, it's real important to know what you want to do ahead of time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go back to our Presentation, again, new or gently used. I personally, I like new, but it depends. It depends what your price range is. Extended warranty, yes or no? Dennis, what are your thoughts? Extended warranty. Well, depending on what type of car you buy and how long you're going to keep it, I've actually had extended warranties before on cars when I've owned them, and it's actually paid off. And it's comforting driving this car. As Dennis says, yes, it's a good idea. It's comforting knowing that year 4 or 5, and that's when stuff starts breaking, that you're covered. I see a lot of people get into these cars, high mileage, Mercedes or BMW, whatever it might be, and all of a sudden the car breaks, and they bring it to the dealer or a mechanic, and on a Range Rover, if something goes with the suspension, the lifts on it, they're going to tell them, $5,000, $6,000, whatever, some crazy amount, and they're going to be like, I don't want to pay it. And then they get mad and they'll bring the car back to the dealership and they quit paying on the loan. Well, again, that's a problem because the finance company sold you money. They didn't sell you the car. It's not their problem that this car broke down. Now, the finance company is going to do one of two things. I mean, they're going to obviously repo the car, plus they're going to mark your credit and try to collect off of you. Now, as Dennis says, a car is a machine. And unreliable to have at times, but banks give better rates with cars that have warranties. Excellent. That's good to know. Again, depending on how long you're going to keep this car, if you're going to lease a car for 3 years, obviously there's no reason to get an extended warranty. Just do your maintenance. Hopefully it should just be oil changes. You keep that oil change when it's supposed to be, and that should be the only thing that you have to do. So yes, it's a good idea if it is a used car, especially a high-end car. And don't freak out because usually you buy a Mercedes or a BMW that might be 3 years old or something. The extended warranty is not going to be cheap. But something goes on that car, this hydraulic system, those are $6,000, $7,000 to fix. You might spend $3,500 or $4,000 on a warranty, but one thing and you're covered. So it's, very wise to look into it and make sure that you are with a good company to do your extended warranty because unfortunately, like everything else, there are a lot of bad ones. So, pay cash or take a loan? So, that's a good question. It depends. Depends how much money you have. The interest on a car is not deductible like a mortgage, so that makes a difference. Dennis says take a loan. Rates are super low, and as we've talked about, you can also, if your credit's good, a lot of these companies offer 0% financing. Now, if you have your money invested in the market and you're sharp at this kind of thing, it's definitely, if you can get a loan, some of these things 1.9% or 0%, that's free money. Definitely, right now you're making more money in the market. So why would you want to take your cash out of your Merrill Lynch account or whatever it might be, and do that when it's making decent money right now? Again, Dennis says if you can get a 0% financing, that's a no-brainer. Just take that. That's awesome. And the problem is with these high interest rates, unfortunately for people that have bad credit where they're 12%, 13%, I've seen them as high as 29%. The problem is no matter what you do with that thing, when 2 years down the line or whatever, if the car even lasts that long, you bring it in, you're going to be what's called upside down, meaning you owe more money than that car is worth. Happens all the time. So something like that, you got to be really, really careful with it. And a lot of times, a lot of these dealers, on those deals with the super high interest rate, they say, oh, well, we'll refinance you afterwards. It never happens because the car is so upside down, meaning you owe more than it's worth. Nobody wants to refinance it. A car, as much as I'm a car guy, I love cars, it's a depreciating asset. You buy a brand new fancy Mercedes, drive it for 2 weeks, and you paid $100,000 for this. You go back to that dealership, they're not going to give you $100,000 for it anymore. You're going to take a hit on it. So it's definitely, everybody needs a car. Not everybody, but if you have a car, be prepared to pay the piper as well. Oh, and something else I want to talk about. Actually, a very good friend of mine who has a Tesla, got hit the other day by a CTA bus. And if I look at pictures of the car, it looks like, oh, it's not that bad. But these cars nowadays, and it actually happened to me with one of my cars, it doesn't look bad, but once that frame is cracked, the car is totaled. So his Tesla, that's maybe a year old, is totaled. The repair, they said, was $45,000. And he's an attorney, a PI attorney, and he said, I don't want that car, because the body shop said, yeah, we can fix it. But knowledgeable attorney said, I don't want that car. The insurance company said, we're going to total it. That's what he wants. And the problem is, he's still not a winner on it, because what they're going to pay him is fair market value on the car. Now, if you had leased the car, it's mandatory in Illinois to get what's called gap insurance. So if the insurance company will only pay $40,000 on that car, but the car is worth $60,000, that's where that gap insurance comes in, and you will be covered. So that's one benefit about having a leased vehicle. Now, another thing, if your car does get totaled, now this happened to me on a leased vehicle, and it couldn't have happened at a better time. I only had one payment left, but I made sure that when I called the finance company that did the lease on it, I wanted to make sure that my insurance company had paid that before the due date, paid the car off before the due date of my next payment, because if they didn't, I would have gotten a late payment. And if they hadn't paid it yet, I would have paid it, because I know I would have gotten reimbursed. That happens so many times. We see that too, where sometimes these insurance companies take a while to pay off the car, but the consumer doesn't pay the, they don't pay so fast, and they won't make 2 or 3 payments, whatever it might be, and then it goes late payment on there. And Dennis does also say that, yes, all leases have gap built into the lease. So it's not like you have to pay extra for the gap insurance. So that's why, I do lease my car, and if something happens to it, I'm really not that worried. But I am going to pay attention to the insurance company and everything to make sure that that is paid off before that payment. Again, if my payment is due on the 25th and this accident happens on the 23rd, I'm going to make sure to make that payment, because there's no way they're going to settle that thing so quick. At the end of the day, I know I'm going to get that money back. So really, really pay attention to that, which is very, very important. Bottom line, get the car that you want, but be smart about it. Do your research. It's really, really important to, listen, car guys and Dennis, I love you, but I know a lot of guys, they get in there and they push them to buy that car right now. And I understand. But you want to be a very smart consumer. Read the reviews about the car. Know your credit score going in. Maybe go to 1 or 2 car dealerships. Look on the internet. The internet's great. Car dealers probably hate it, because it definitely, you can shop around a lot easier than back in the day versus going to every single car dealership. But it is a great tool. I use it all the time and everything as well. So we're going to go back to our presentations in a second. Since we were talking all about credit, we want to talk about what to do with credit issues. So hold on a second here. We're just going in. Again, this is a live call-in show. So if you want, call in 312-738-1060, and we will get you on. I only have a couple minutes left here. So no haggling with Dennis. He'll get you in. He is truly a great car sales guy. Unfortunately, I cannot promote his car dealership on this TV show, but he is good. If anybody is looking for a car, just call me at the help center and I can refer you out. The guy is great, and we've done a lot with him in the past. We've sent a lot of people that call the help center that he has helped out with credit issues as well and points them in the right direction. So thank you very much, Dennis, for all your help with the people that call the help center. Let's talk about credit a little bit. What is a credit report? Let's talk about that. A credit report is basically like a report card. When you went to school, remember you got a report card with grades on it? You did good, you got an A. You did bad, you got an F. Of course, I was a straight A student myself, but, and it's going to report all your credit. If you have good credit, it will show that. It's going to show your balances, how much you owe, what the credit limit is, how many late payments you have. Hopefully you won't have any late payments. When the loans were opened. And obviously you want to keep your credit balances below 30% of the credit limit. We've discussed that several times on this show, because anytime you start going over 30%, it will lower the score. So make sure that you keep your balances low. Everything electronically, I mean, sometimes I'll make 2-3 payments to my credit card a week. It's so easy because it's easier to pay off a large amount a little bit at a time versus all of a sudden at the end of the month you get this big bill. And I personally use a credit card for everything because I get points, which converts back into cash. So I'm a big fan. I don't care if it's 72 cents. If the 7-Eleven will take the credit card, hey, I use it. Plus, I hate carrying change. It's funny how our society has changed, that used to use cash all the time. And like my kids, they've really, besides a couple things of cash, but they have, debit cards, and they just use that, which is good because if they lose it, it's not the end of the world. But let's go. Why do lenders look at my credit? Real simple. They want to make sure that they get paid back. If they see that you have a good credit score and your numbers are high, that means something. That means, hey, this guy does pay his creditors and he's a good risk. It's always a risk. I mean, anybody borrows money, it's a risk. Obviously, when these companies charge high interest rates and because your credit score is low, there's a reason. Those are risky types of loans. And a lot of those loans will go bad. So, unfortunately, the guy that's paying 12%, why is he paying such a high amount? Because, again, it's risky. Plus, a lot of that's covering a lot of these other people that go bad on the loans. So that's why, these loan companies hedge themselves so they know X amount are going to go bad a year. They know going in that if they do 1,000 loans for the year of 2018, X amount of these things are going to go bad. It's all calculated. So they do know what is the procedure and what the default rate is. Oops, I'm sorry. What is a credit score? Again, we just discussed that. It tells the ability, bottom line, how to pay. What kind of credit score do I need to purchase a home? Boy, when we've had mortgage brokers on, I hear so many different scores. But to get an FHA mortgage, you probably need now, I'd say, anywhere from 600 to 640. The higher your credit score is, the better the rate is going to be. So remember, do a tune-up on your credit. Before you go for that mortgage broker, make sure that your credit looks good, your credit score is as high as possible. The easiest way to do that is, as we said, keep those balances low, and that's what's going to have no derogatory information either. Let's go to a little chart here that I've prepared about scores, how they are put together. So, FICO scores we will talk about. So your payment history that we were talking, 35% of your credit score is based on your payment history. Length of credit is 15%. So in other words, how long you've had these credit cards. Like we always tell people, if you get your credit cleaned and you go get 1 or 2 credit cards with, $300, $500 limits, you're not going to be a 700 because you've only had them for 2 months. It's a slow process. You crawl, walk, and run. By doing that, that's how you are going to get the good scores. They're not going to happen overnight. Balances are 30%. So again, we want to keep under 30% of the credit limit. Types of credit, 10%, a mix, installment, revolving. New credits, 10%. So a lot of times when people get new credit cards, we've seen credit scores drop. So it's, again, slow and steady wins the race. We tell people this at the Help Center all the time, that you don't want to rush out and get a ton of credit cards, because if you do, it's going to hurt your credit score. So make sure you do, if you're building your credit, do it slow. If you do have questions about it, give us a call at the Help Center at 773-862-4000. We will coach you on how to build your credit. So I do want to thank everybody for watching the show. My Facebook friends, Dennis, we will be in touch to get you back on this show. It's Memorial Day this week, so I want everybody to have a great holiday. Next Wednesday, my co-host, Larry Smith, attorney Larry Smith, will be on here answering all your questions about what happens when somebody does something bad on your credit. Creditors won't take items off that don't belong to you, and that affects your score, which affects your ability to purchase a house or possibly even not be able to purchase a house. So definitely tune in for that. That's always very interesting information. I do want to thank everybody, the staff at CAN TV tonight, my producer Marisol, thank you. Great job. Larry Smith and I will be back in 2 weeks. Have a great Memorial Day.